Good morning and welcome to the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Today we turn our attention to the devastating flood ravaging communities in Borno and Yobe State. Entire villages have been submerged, thousands displaced and livelihoods destroyed as the region battles one of the worst flood episodes in recent years. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has been at the forefront of responding to this crisis, providing relief materials, setting up temporary shelters, and coordinating with state government and humanitarian agencies. But as the scale of destruction grows, questions remain. How effective has the response been and what more needs to be done to mitigate future disasters? Well, joining us to unpack this and so much more this morning is Sirajo Garba Abdullahi, is Head of Operations at Borno State at the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you for joining the show this morning, Mr. Abdullahi.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being here this morning. Let's begin with the situation report, really. What's the scale of the flood menace in Borno and Yobe State right now?
At the moment, as we had the report from Menace, we are having early cessation of the rain. Presently, it's going down, but in the last 1, thousands of people flood as a result of each volume of rain in most of the high-risk areas that were highlighted earlier on.
We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you very well.
Yes. We got the report since February, and NEMA convened a meeting of critical stakeholders, and we were able to get advisories as early as April. All the state governments were written to NEMA with the state government. So of course we had about 11 LGAs, each of the states high risk. But hopefully, as I mentioned earlier on, we're having a cessation. A lot of people have been affected. But the displacement is not like what we had last year. So I think we have a stable situation at the moment.
When you look at the communities which are the communities worst hit, what stands out for you? How many people have been displaced and what are their most urgent needs?
Can you come again? You said how many people?
Yes, when you look at the communities which have been worst hit, what really stands out for you? How many people have been displaced and what are their most urgent needs? I can hear you, Mr. Abdullahi. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? We can hear you.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Abdullahi. Can you hear me? All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is still the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. I was just speaking with Mr. Sirajo Abdullahi, who happens to be the head of operations at NEMA for Borno State. I was asking you just before we went on the break about what are the communities which are worst hit by this situation and what really stands out for you, and if you could just give us statistics on how many people have been displaced and what their most urgent needs are. Mr. Abdullahi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. What did you say?
All right, I'm asking to know which of the communities have been worst hit by this situation and what stands out for you. And if you could give us statistics on how many people have been displaced and what their most urgent needs might be right now. Just give us the statistics.
Okay, so far, based on our records, we have about in Yobe State we have about 5 local government areas, starting from Potiskum. I think Potiskum is the worst affected. About 2,557 households were affected in Potiskum, and 102 were displaced. Out of the 102 that were displaced, the state government has actually provided cash for rent, while NEMA has provided food and non-food items to the affected population. In Nangere, we have about 200 households. Their houses were inundated, and they have been resettled with the collaboration of SEMA and other humanitarian partners in the shelter sector, non-food items. Shelter kits have been provided for them. Meanwhile, we also have others affected in Guru and in Damaturu local government areas. All in all, I would say we have over 10,000 households affected in Yobe State, while in Borno State we have about, I think the most affected is in Maiduguri Metropolis. Can you hear me?
Crystal clear.
It's not clear?
I can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay. Okay. In Maiduguri Metropolis, Konduga, and part of Jere local governments, we have over also, I think, close to 20,000 households affected. However, there is no displacement. They suffered this. They were affected because of the high volume of water as a result of flash floods. We had flash floods due to the high volume of water and also the overflow of Gada River and also River Gadabo. Those on the riverine areas or along the shore of the river were affected, while the most affected are in Bomari, Bulunkutu, Dala areas, Dubai. I think we have close to about 6-7 locations where people were heavily affected. However, there is no displacement, unlike last year.
Right. And if I hear you correctly, you said that the Maiduguri metropolis happens to be the one that's been most hit by this unfortunate situation. And you did also mention that NEMA has been able to provide food items and non-food items. And in that case, I would assume that then they've been able to get, relief in terms of shelter and medical support. I believe so. But one thing that has been recurring is that we've heard concerns that some areas aren't getting enough aid. Why is this so difficult to reach these places?
Yes, some of the locations I have mentioned, like in Borno State, you find out that some of the buildings, there is no short-term solution to what is happening at the moment. But it's believed that most of the state governments, more especially here in Borno, they are having more durable solutions to this problem because whether we like it or not, the volume of water as a result of climate change that we have has increased. And one thing that we have identified is that most of these locations are areas that are in a low-lying areas. There is no, for those, the states are having survey, because we are also in some of these committees, state committees, to identify the problems. Some of them is not even the lack of drainages. There are drainages, but there are no outfalls. There is no place where this water will go to. For some areas, experts are providing solutions to like creating cesspool and creating more outfalls to connect them if there are waterways along the lines. But the houses have been there ages, ago. And For the states where we've had a lot of activities like expanding of those waterways, creating of more drainages, and what have you. Generally, we would say also some of the building patterns that we have, most especially here in the north, you find out that most of the areas affected, in some places where houses are being destroyed or partially damaged, they are just mud houses, and most of these mud houses do not really have a very strong foundation. And as a result, year in, year out, you have those houses affected. And back to your question with the issue of aid, the aid is or assistance. Sometimes you cannot reach every other person because the number of those that are affected, as I said, compared to last year or this year, we have it is somehow somehow better. Even though we are providing, we move with the states, and we have been calling on the LGAs because we can't reach everywhere. So we're trying our best to those that are reported, cases that are reported. We have an emergency operations center. Whatever information we have on areas that have been reported so far, I believe we have reported to the emergency operations center, and we are providing support for some other areas. It's not only NEMA; we have other partners also providing support. So ours is to coordinate, and we identify areas that have not been assisted. We also assist, but if an assistance has already reached them, then we also get across to others. Thank you.
Ms. Abdullahi, we need to talk about the fact that we know we're talking about the Northeast here, where insecurity happens to be a big factor. How much of this insecurity has complicated your response operations?
Yes, with regards to security, of course, there are some areas that are hard to reach. They are hard to reach. However, that has not stopped support getting across to them, because whenever we have assistance or any form of support by the government or non-governmental organizations, we have the securities with us, and we also liaise with the state emergency management agencies and the local government areas to see that the assistance reaches them.
All right, and one thing we also need to highlight is coordination. In moments like this, we know that coordination is everything. So how are you working with state government? How are you working with local authorities and even international partners to keep this response running smoothly?
How we keep in touch with our key partners is that you are aware that at each of the states have their various state emergency management agencies. And also we have the local government, local emergency management committees. So it's we don't have a problem with coordination, because in the base states, more especially Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, even though Adamawa is not under me, for Borno and Adamawa and Yobe, we have a very smooth working relationship. We have desk officers in all the local government areas who report these incidents. That's how we get to know. Then secondly, we also liaise through the state emergency management agencies. We are together with them. Even as I'm speaking with you, we're having a program with the executive secretary of the Yobe State Emergency Management Agency and the Director General Borno State Emergency Management Agency. Whenever we have incidents like this, we have the key partners, including we have an emergency response team, which includes the fire service. We also have the Red Cross. We have the police, the civil defense. They all form part of the emergency response team. So we don't have an issue with coordination because we meet periodically. That is how we were able to, also have committees that were created by the state governments to identify even from the incidents we had last year. One, we looked at, even before now, we had a downscaling program when we got the information from NIMET and NISA. We came all together, all the partners came in together. We identified areas that were affected last year, and we looked at the high-risk areas, and we were getting advisories from NIMET and NISA almost, I think, on a weekly basis, or should I say it's periodic, to areas where they're expecting these high volumes of water. And most of the areas that were affected last year, we identify some of the reasons to like lack of drainages in some places, desilting, lack of desilting of some of these drainages, which we also carried out, expansion of waterways and some of the canals. And we also identified that there is need to dredge some of these rivers, and also expand the waterways, as I mentioned. So we have been doing it, and we meet periodically with the key partners. Of course, we have professionals also amongst us, and the line ministries that are supposed to be there, like Ministries of Works, Ministry of Environment. They are all included to identify these areas, and we are always preferring a solution to the states, to actually look at how they can survey, have another survey of most of these areas to identify what they need to do immediately, to avert any flooding that may come in the future.
It looks like you have everything under control in terms of smooth operations, but we also understand that relief is critical, but certainly it can't be the end of the story. So what are some of the long-term solutions that we're considering right now to help these communities to become less vulnerable to flooding?
The long-term solutions is we are looking at one. We are calling on the professionals, most especially, as it's been said every day, that the
Mr. Abdullahi, do we still have you? All right, I was just speaking with Mr. Sirajo Abdullahi, is the head of operations at NEMA for Borno State, and he was talking to us about some of the activities ongoing in terms of helping the communities who have been affected by the flood in Borno and Yobe states.
They need to be desilted.
Please carry on. Mr. Abdullahi, do we still have you?
Yes, it went off, but it's back.
All right, please go on.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So we believe it's a long-term solution. The states have to incorporate their development. They need to have a survey of most of these areas that are affected to propose a long-lasting solution. One, for areas that do not have an outfall where the water will run off to. In some of these areas, sometimes they are thinking about providing a cesspool where you will channel some of this water to the cesspool. Then there are some rivers that have not been dredged for quite a long time, and we believe that those rivers would need to be dredged so that they can contain more water. And also for the existing dams, we believe that continuous maintenance of these dams, will also go a long way to avoid overflow. And but generally, we also we need to look at our buildings for areas that are in low-lying areas, the experts will have to give a proper solution, to some of these things. Even if the cesspool is something that at the moment is people do not always want to have a location, close to communities that will be containing a lot of water. But we believe if our engineers can come together and work with the various states, have a survey, and mapping of these areas, will be able to get out of the present situation.
And if I hear you correctly, I've not heard you mention any challenges with resources. Do you want to talk to us a little bit
Yes, of
about
course.
if you have enough resources?
Funding is always not adequate.
Mhm.
It's always not adequate. As I highlighted earlier on, we have a lot of people affected, but not necessarily displaced. So when you look at the number of people affected, of course, we cannot provide for everybody. That's why we have been calling on the states and the local government areas, because there are some local government areas that do not have local emergency management committees. And what we are saying is for those LGAs to have established local government management committees, one, to enhance the capacity building of our locals and our communities. Secondly, to be able to have a very good, understanding of emergency management itself. And thirdly, for the various governments to fund the state emergency management agencies to have adequate stockpiling, and also to reach those that have been affected, because NEMA alone cannot do it. NEMA has about 36 states with the FCT. That is why we have always been calling on the states, the various state governments, to fund the SEMAs. That way, we believe we'll be able to reach more people.
And
Yeah.
we've talked about the role of the government, we've talked about the role of NEMA, we've talked about how we might also need more resources, but let's talk about the people themselves. What's the role of citizens here? How can these citizens and these communities play a stronger part in actually preparing and responding to disasters like this? In Lagos State, you hear, stay on guard, the flooding is about to happen. You'd hear that in some places in the West. So what really is what's the role that communities are playing to prepare?
Yeah, the communities and people as a whole, I think, have a much greater role to play. One, for those that are building their houses in low lying areas or riverine river banks, I believe they have to desist from that, because you can't be living in a location where there are lots of hazards, and risk. One, you could be once you have a flash flood, those houses could be washed away because they're along waterways, and we find a lot of these houses, being built, along these areas and areas where there are a lot of erosion. Secondly, communities need to desist from throwing their waste into canals and waterways, because once you have blockage in these areas, the water goes back into people's houses. And as a result, they lose a lot of belongings, and they also lose their life. That, of course, we have seen the governments putting a lot of resources in trying to distill. A lot of resources goes into that, and even drainages that have been built or constructed, to take this water out. You have a situation where people just fill in, their garbages and what have you. And thirdly, you also have situations where those places are inundated, and even though government comes to do some chlorination and what have you there, you have the source of water and you see their drainages, I'm sorry, their soccerways, very close to their source of water. And thereby you have outbreak of diseases and stuff like that. So I think the communities will need to, gear up. They will need to also identify that these are problems, and year in, year out, we cannot continue like that. And even the nature of the houses that are being built, they don't have a very good foundation mostly. And as a result, we keep losing some of these houses they build every year. The same thing, next year you come out, it is the same thing. So they should adhere to government regulation. For those that have been asked, most especially here in Borno, I think they have about if I'm not mistaken, somewhere between 20 to 50 meters from the riverways. They have restricted people from building, but you still see some people doing that in some of these areas. And also with regards to boat mishap that we usually have, which is as a result of mostly here, when you have huge volumes of water, we are asking the people to actually restrict the number of people that go on some of these boats. We have realized that mostly it is overloading, that causes most of the boats to capsize. Most of the incidents we've had is as a result of overloading, and also for the boat operators, to have life jackets in their boats. I think it will go a long way.
And having said all of this, if we're looking ahead right now, if you had to highlight just one or two things that Nigeria must do differently, to avoid another disaster of this magnitude, what would they be?
Well, I would say to one, have a general survey, of the cities and places that have on high risk. We need to have that survey. And secondly, I would say maintaining of all water bodies and containers, which are the dams and other waterways, they need to be maintained, because once they are maintained, they will contain more water, and we will have less crisis on our hands.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sirajo Garba Abdullahi, the head of operations for Borno State at the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you for giving us this insightful
Thank you so much for having me,
morning.
and apologies for all the hitches.
It's very well. Thank you.
So
Do enjoy the rest of your day.
you. Yeah.
Well, this has been the big story right here on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Until tomorrow, keep watching BDTV.